recording now, so we should be good.
Yay. Alright.
3, 2, 1.
Hey nerd. I think we had it on the 3, 2, 1, and then the hey nerd just was like,
It felt like you were behind me on the 3, 2, 1, but regardless, just so we don't forget, my name is Caroline, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
My name is Eli, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. And this is Hey Nerd.
Yep.
You're back. Episode 4, baby.
I believe congratulations for ourselves are in order, because I think now we have surpassed the original Hey Nerd podcast. That was the one with the comma in it, that lasted for only 3 episodes. So now we've outdone them. We have succeeded them.
We are the dominant Hey Nerd podcast.
Yes. Oh, man. Wouldn't it be great if we just, had them on at some point, as guests, and it's just so how does it feel to be a failure? How does it feel to be schooled by 2 random teenagers?
How does it feel to have your brand stolen from we ripped the rug right out from under you, and it's ours now, because we are the superior nerds in this instance.
We're not beating a dead horse, we brought it back to life, motherfucker. Anyway.
Us and all 4 of our YouTube subscribers.
Uh-huh. Yeah. According to Anchor, we also have exactly 4 listeners, so I feel like combined we maybe have 8, or our friends are double dipping across platforms. Either way, thanks to our friends. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to our friends.
Yes. Okay,
you guys are doing good
Yeah, we
work.
have some funny anecdotes, I guess. Number 1, I found a recipe for beef fizz, which is, from what I can tell, beef broth plus ginger ale plus a little bit of lemon juice, and you put that over some ice, and then you serve it like a refreshing summer treat instead of the abomination that it is.
Nice. That reminds me, I don't know where, maybe it was a Game Grumps episode, but I heard about Worcestershire soda, which has the same energy as that. It was soda that was meant to taste like Worcestershire sauce.
Things that shouldn't be soda flavors. Big contender there. I also, my mom, my mom's a pretty good ally in terms of queer stuff, but I found out last night, I think, maybe night before last, that Tumblr, posts concerning gay humor have made it to Facebook. I learned this because I heard my mother cackling from the other room, and, longer or harder than I've ever heard her laugh before, and then she, yelled for me to come in and look at it, and it was just a very long Tumblr text post about, it was a response to this one homophobic person that was if we had, Lesbian Island and Gay Island, then Straight Island would be the only one able to repopulate itself. And so, being gay isn't natural, and then a bunch of gays jumped onto it, gays and other people as well, there were some pansexual people, there were bi, ace, all of the things, just jumped onto it. And we're
descended.
What do we need to do to take down this dystopian future? And it was a very funny read, but, my mom read it aloud to me, and that's never been a voice that I've read Tumblr text post with. Anyway, it was just very concerning.
Nice. Alright, I suppose it's mine. So, one thing is a big shout out to our good friend Shelby, who, I think, while I was editing the last episode, texted me and was like, hey, you should watch the documentary Disclosure on Netflix, because it's about, trans representation in media and how that's evolved over time, and, problems with it. The problems with it, but also how it's getting better, generally.
Yay.
And I watched it, and it was really good, so now I'm recommending it here. So Shelby has brought it into the podcast and is going to get to listen to her own recommendation over. But it was really good, and, I don't know, I think Netflix documentaries they have some gold ones in there. They have a lot of stuff that's it's Netflix, but there's some real gold in there.
Nice.
And then the other thing, and this is a cursed thing that I need to share, is that I opened Twitter to, check my Twitter, just general things, and now I have to go find it again, so give me a moment.
Lord.
I opened Twitter to see the phrase, Joe Biden roleplay sex. That just, at the top of my Twitter feed, it was just there. I was
motherfucker, I'm gonna need you to provide some context? Who said this? Why? When? Is there any... What? Is Joe Joe Biden participating, or are people role-playing as Joe Biden? What's going on?
I don't know. Oh, that's who it is. I need to follow this. This is Miguel. Miguel tweeted this.
Miguel, you motherfucker!
I
didn't even know he had a Twitter. What the fuck?
Yeah, okay, I tried to find it. So this is what it is. Okay. I knew Miguel had a Twitter. I did not know what it was, but yeah, this is Miguel's Twitter. There is no context. I found that because another friend of mine liked Miguel's tweet. But yeah.
I hate that.
It's great. I love seeing that. I love to see it.
We love to see it. Yeah, and I guess, I did mention to Eli before we started recording that I had a Shelby thing to share, and I did text Shelby as the Tumblr post thing was happening, just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? 'Cause, yeah, it was a very weird, like, I'm glad you're being an ally, but this is the weirdest manifestation of it that could have possibly happened. And I guess to round out the funny anecdotes, Eli and I have been having a debate on whether or not wolves have class consciousness. Like, whether or not one would theoretically be able to shapeshift into a wolf and then persuade said wolves to revolt against, the people who have thrown you to the wolves, as it were. So yeah, I say that they totally would.
Well, I would maintain that wild wolves do not have class consciousness, because why would they? They don't have class, they're just wolves in the wild. But I will cede that if they have been specifically, like, captured and forced to work for the elven family, then they may have class consciousness.
Okay. See, the thing is, I think feral wolves are still pack animals, and thus, as a group, would be better suited to, like, attack a certain group of people, for example, higher-ups, who are summoning them for whatever reason to do their dirty work. I think that would also be easy.
However, I would say that by its very nature, you as a druid are also part of the oppressive group that summons wolves to do people's dirty work, so you are really no better to them than anyone else, because you also have conjure animals.
Is summoning fae. Fuck you!
Nah, you summon the beasts to do your bidding.
No, conjure animals is summoning fae that then transform into beasts. That's why I
But that's still summoning a creature to do your bidding. Summoning someone to be subjected under you and do your bidding. You're part of the problem, Caroline.
But I can turn into them. I can walk among them.
Yeah, that's like undercover boss. That's not... it's not challenging class consciousness. You're just in an episode of Undercover Boss.
Yeah, I still haven't summoned any animals yet. Storm can do whatever she wants. My dragon.
Yeah, I've summoned animals twice as a druid. In both fights, I've been like, you know what's gonna solve this? Summoning animals.
Yeah, so you're projecting your bullshit onto me. I haven't done shit to impress
I will say that, yeah, if the wolves want to mount an uprising, but I summoned a group of wolves in the middle of a city, and they killed like 20 people and then disappeared, and I was like, those are the best boys.
See, if you compensate them for their labor with treats and or pets, then I believe that it's not exploitation so much as, like, contract work.
Okay. You're contracting with the wolves.
Anyway, we'd love to hear from you, the listeners, on this debate, so go ahead and email us at heynerdpodcast@gmail.com and explain to us why you think I'm right. Anyhow.
Wow, you're really playing into confirmation bias there, aren't you, Caroline?
Yep. Okay, I think it's my turn to ask the Brendan question this week, since I think you asked it last week. So, the Brendan question for this week isn't so much like, how are you feeling today, so much as just a general icebreaker question, that I came up with on my very own. So the question for today is, if you had a Southside serpent name, what name would you have? And possibly why, if there's any reasoning.
Okay, mine is dumb and has dumb reasoning. My Southside serpent name would be Tails, because there's a Sonic character named Tails, and I posit that Southside serpent names are just as ridiculous as the names of characters in Sonic, because really, what is the difference between a character named Fangs and a character named Knuckles, except that one is supposed to be part of a badass gang and the other is a red... They're not hedgehogs, but like, you
Fox.
know. No,
I think
it's
he's
like
a fox.
Echidna. Like, the people, the Sonic creatures are called hedgehogs, but are actually echidnas. Anyways, I posit that Southside Serpent and Sonic names are equally ridiculous, so I would be named Tails, because that could both be a Southside Serpent and is also a Sonic character.
Okay, yeah, and as I have noted in the past, Riverdale has absolutely no problem with ripping off other people's IPs for their serpent names. See, the Southside Serpent, who's, like, doesn't, I don't think, have any lines, but whose name is Old Deuteronomy, as in that one cat from the musical Cats, for no reason. My Southside Serpent name would be Garlic Bread, because they just have a lot of food names in there, and I feel like garlic bread, yeah, I feel like it's just so very stupid. But it's, it's a 2-word food name, which I think is, like, the clincher for food Southside Serpent names. So yeah, I would be Garlic Bread.
Garlic bread and sweet pea,
Garlic bread and peaches and cream. See, I'm going against the grain even with the food names. That's how much I hate this show. I'm rebelling against a system that ostensibly has absolutely no logic or rubric to it. So yeah.
Well, now I have to know, whenever they refer to peaches and cream, do they say peaches and cream, or is this person called Peaches, but they're like, but my real name is Peaches and Cream?
Oh, God, I don't even know. I think she's actually one of the Pretty Poisons, which is like, I don't know where, I guess all of the serpents left when Tony and Cheryl left. All of the female serpents just went with them, and then they formed their own gang called the Pretty Poisons, and it's a girl gang thing, and so that's where Peaches and Cream is. I haven't seen her pop up significantly yet, but I think they do use the full name each time.
Wild.
Yeah, pretty much. It's fucking awful. So yeah. Now it's time for our graceless segue somewhat into, today we're talking about Riverdale.
Yep. Caroline is taking point because I watched 2 seasons and then read Caroline's reviews, essentially.
Reviews? Reviews is a strong word.
I'm giving it a nicer word than maybe it deserves. Caroline's rants while she's in the weeds.
Yeah. So I guess with that, I'll explain kind of why the hell I'm talking about Riverdale, because it's, if you know anything about it, it's just kind of a garbage show now. Seasons 1 and 2 started out okay, pretty decent. I mean, season 2 was kind of when it started going downhill. Like, it started getting a little wacky. But, still savable. And then seasons 3, and thus far, 4, have been hot trash. Completely. And at some point, I don't remember how or when it started, but I was just like, I think I was texting the group chat stuff that was happening during season 3 that I found unbelievable. And then I think I just, either you asked or I just, like, started texting Eli personally. Or, like, yeah, I was like, sorry if I'm bugging people with this. And then
you texted me, like, an observation, and then I texted back. I think it was you were just texting generally, but I started texting back. As, like, this is funny, but...
Yeah, so then it kind of became a kind of weekly tradition where I would just, like, tell Eli what had happened and what crazy thing had gone down in that week's episode. And then it kind of petered off for a while. I have found that I'm just not a person who can binge watch that show because it's genuinely a little bit emotionally draining. Like, having that much rage sustained over the course of, like, even 2 episodes is just too much for me. So yeah, and I guess a quick caveat before we really get into it. I watched, I think, about halfway through season 4 before quarantine hit, and I was kind of like, I don't want to do this. And then I kind of realized I'd forgotten all of season 3, so I'm going back through season 3 right now. Haven't finished season 4. If you have any, like, plot corrections or, like, things that I get wrong about the plot of Riverdale in this episode, don't email me. Keep your damn mouth shut. I don't want to hear it. Like, if you have corrections for what I say on Riverdale, no. I'm not hearing it. I'm not...
They're not accepted.
Actually, this happened in season 2. Go fuck yourself. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it today. This is my angry episode. We're starting off Gay Wrath Month with a lesbian being fucking furious at the show.
That's fair.
Yeah, so whenever I watch a Riverdale episode, I now text Eli all the bullshit that happens. With I think, varying degrees of success in how much you actually understand or absorb.
I feel like for a lot of episodes, I'm not necessarily getting the plot. I'm just getting, like, the outrageous things that happen. But I guess that both of those, that predicates on the idea that Riverdale has a plot and is not just a series of outrageous things that happen. But I would say I probably get, like, the highs and the lows of each episode. I don't know if I get the whole arc.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know how things connect. It's just, like, like, a bunch of sporadic events. But I'm also not reading your text to figure out a plot. I'm reading your text to be like, wow, this is ridiculous. A filtered version of it is still ridiculous.
Yeah, like, I think a lot of teen drama shows end up kind of going off the rails like this. I don't think they've ever gone off the rails this hard this early. I think they at least managed to make it 3 seasons before going completely off the deep end. But yeah, that being said, Riverdale's a very edgy, incoherent show, and as such there are a lot of kind of taboo topics that are mentioned, so I'm just gonna give a quick heads up for conversion therapy, homophobia, possible biphobia, possible fat phobia, implied incest, brief mentions of sexual assault, and of course, murder and suicide. I'm not going to go into graphic detail, but those are topics that the series covers, along with, I think, a few other things. Cults. Cults also.
Yeah, I would say cults. Cult murder.
Cults murder, abusive parents, all that
serial
jazz.
killers.
Serial killers, So just, if you're kind of icked out by any of those things, I won't be offended if you decide to skip this episode. I would also recommend listening to an episode of Wonderful by Griffin and Rachel McElroy, because it's a very sweet podcast that's very positive and happy, and not what this episode is going to be.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be amusing. Hopefully this will be a funny episode, but I don't know.
I will say probably also just like a general, if you have anything that makes you uncomfortable to hear about, this is maybe not the episode for you, because Riverdale, I think, goes into basically every avenue of things that are, like, potentially triggering or are just, like, not a fun thing to hear about or think about.
Yeah. It's a pretty dark show. It's like,
yes.
It's kind of like, Pretty Little Liars, like, but also with a little bit of Game of Thrones mixed in for flavor. That's pretty much the edginess we're working with here. It's not, again, it's like TV 14, so it's not super graphic, but yeah, there are going to be mentions of that as they're kind of discussing them as they are used as plot points. But yeah, that being said, what should I start with? What should I start with Riverdale?
Well, why don't we start with, like, a general plot arc of what the 4 seasons are, and then we can get into, like, the weeds.
Okay, so, season 1 started off fine. It was basically a murder mystery. Cheryl Blossom's twin brother Jason was found in the river, and conspiracies and theories and investigations abounded. All sorts of dark things.
It was kind of one of those shows where it's like, it was essentially just a show where it's a murder mystery, but the murder mystery isn't, like, episodic, or, like, you don't have a murder every episode. It's, like, a whole season devoted to one murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fine.
Yeah, our main cast of characters was, of course, the very rich and tragic Cheryl Blossom. Her brother was dead, but I guess he was kind of part of the cast. Her twin brother Jason.
He was kind of integral to the story.
He was integral to the story, if not, a main star of most episodes. And Jason Blossom, who's Cheryl's twin, who is also inexplicably, I think, in the year above Cheryl? Which was weird. Yeah, because he was like, Polly and Jason were in the same class, and Polly was Betty's older sister. So that implies that Jason either skipped a grade or Cheryl got held back.
Well, is Cheryl do you ever see Cheryl in the same classes as them, or is she just, like, at the school and
I think we see her in some of the same classes, with the main group. And the main group is Veronica Lodge, who's another rich person who's moved to small-town Riverdale from New York City because her dad's in jail.
He's part of the mafia.
He's a mob boss. He's also an asshole. Veronica, and then we have Betty, who is basically your basic girl next door in the first season, That doesn't last long, but she's just generally kind of sweet, and she's into journalism and investigative reporting. Jughead Jones is the mysterious, kind of edgy kid from the, quote, wrong side of the tracks, who's one of Archie's best friends, who's fallen on hard times in the first season. He wants to be a writer. He's also into investigative reporting. He and Betty end up together. And then there's Archie, who is
the titular Archie Andrew from the Archie comics.
Yeah, this is all, by the way, if you didn't know already, a take on the Archie comic book series, which seems to have used the names and maybe vague aesthetics, but nothing else. Yeah, Archie Andrews, who I think the first season is his most basic and his most tolerable incarnation, where he's just like, should I do music or should I do sports? The age-old question of teen dramas since,
the Troy Bolton story.
Yeah. The Zephron effect, as we call it. We don't call it that. No one calls it that. So yeah, they spend the whole time trying to basically solve the murder. More deaths happen, teen pregnancies are unveiled. So is the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, which is it's not a convent. It's, whatchamacallit. I guess it is a convent? I don't know. Where do you send... They don't go there to become nuns, but it's like...
It's essentially like a home for wayward girls that's run religiously, I think is what you would probably call it. Yeah. It's like kind of like the old classic home for wayward girls, where it's like the church does things to like a varying levels of moral efficacy. This one is very low on the scale.
So yeah, the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, who it turns out are also major human rights abusers and have been going on for 5 decades, even though their abuses are an open secret. I don't know why that... But yeah. So that's the first season, second season.
And I would say also in the first season, it's revealed that Jughead's dad is in a gang!
Oh! It's super edgy. Yeah. The Southside Serpents, hence the name thing from the beginning of this episode. And then second season, Black Hood, serial killer, on the loose. Oh damn, what are we gonna do? So the gang's back at it again, solving crimes. I believe this is the point where Hiram Lodge returns to Riverdale?
Yeah. I think Hiram's back, and he's causing a mess on the south side, because he's trying to buy out the south side to facilitate his drug ring with the ghoulies. At the same time, Jughead's joined the Southside Serpents and is, like, leading a protest movement, ?
Yeah. And then Betty also joins the Southside Serpents because, her boyfriend's in it, and ends up doing a fucking pole dancing routine, like, complete with lingerie, in a bar full of adults, despite the fact that she's, like, 16, 17 years old. To a song that's not really that sexy, in my personal opinion. I think it was like, it's a Mad World, it's that one.
Oh.
I don't know, it's very slow and sad. I was like, why is this happening? No. So yeah, and then the Black Hood is... Oh yeah, and we also figure out that, Betty has a mysterious half-brother named Chick. I think that's when that's revealed.
Well, you meet... Yeah, it's revealed that Betty has a half-brother who's also Jughead's half-brother.
Because it turns out that, Betty's mom and Jughead's dad are a thing and continue... Eli just made a rude gesture at the camera that I had to witness. But yeah, that's a thing. The FP is Jughead's dad, and Alice is Betty's mom, and their ship name is Phallus, which is something that both actors in the ship actually appreciate, which, I mean, they're the two actors that I think take the show the least seriously, which is probably a good thing. So yeah, like, they're a thing, and apparently, once upon a time, they produced a child, who was then sent away, so now Jughead and Betty do such cute couple things as, smooching each other on the cheeks when they also speak the sentence, "Have you seen our half-brother recently?" Which is some real Alabama bullshit I don't appreciate.
It's also, that half-brother thing gets used several times, because then it's revealed that the chick that they meet in that season isn't actually Chick, is just some other guy,
Well, his name is Chick, but, it's not a nickname for Charles like they thought. That's just his name, I think. Mm-hmm. And then later on in, season 2, we also discover that not only is Chick not Charles, Betty's half-brother, but that he knew Charles at one point. And that's how he knows all the information. And then later on, it's revealed that Chick was dating Charles? That's a whole thing? I don't even know.
I mean, this is also, like, we think that Chick gets killed towards the end of season 2 by the Black Hood, only to reveal in the season 3 finale that he is in fact alive, and is instead going to pursue the main 4 characters through the woods all night.
I think so, yeah. So that's fun. That's fun and cool. Betty's actual half-brother is, in reality, an FBI agent, named Charles, who specializes in serial killers, which is a whole thing, because Betty's like, I have this dark side of myself because of my genetics, because, you know, surprise, surprise, Betty's dad was the Black Hood, the serial killer that we mentioned, 8 minutes ago. Yeah, we discover that at the end. He's psychotic, and he ends up going to prison. So that's a whole thing. And season 3 is just a whole bunch of extra bullshit. Oh yeah, season 2 is also, I believe, when we meet Tony, who is a Southside Serpent girl, who ends up, dating Cheryl, the rich girl who, we were introduced to in season 1, as, the rich kind of, head bitch in charge, as the, acronym on her cheerleading uniform stands for. So yeah, season 3, lots of more drugs. This time they're also incorporating Griffins and Gargoyles, a D&D ripoff, that is actually satanic this time around, unlike actual D&D, in which does not appear, it appears to be a combination of both LARPing and tabletop role-playing games.
And then also...
They act out a lot of missions in real life, but there are, predetermined quest cards that you have to pick from. It's a whole... I've spent more time thinking about this game system than I really needed to. But yeah.
It also involves putting your real actual life in danger. When they make you drink real actual poison, which I don't think gets as much time as it deserves in the show, is to progress beyond a certain level, you have to actually maybe forfeit your life.
Yep.
Is this also, do we first meet the farm in season 2 or season 3? I don't remember, but the farm is...
I don't remember either, but I think we're introduced to it, I think, actually in season 1, because that's where Polly goes after the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, because it's they will take care of me and my pregnant babies. Or, no, me and my pregnant self and my baby. I'm very tired, you guys, help! Send help, my brain's melting. But yeah, Polly ends up going to the Sisters of Wayward Mercy in season 1. Quiet Mercy, fuck's sake, I can't speak. Just stick this in the blooper reel. Just cut this all out and stick it in the blooper reel.
No, it all stays. Done. But then she goes to the farm. And then is it revealed in, season... Is it the first episode of season 3 where they drop the babies over the fire, and then it's the farm? Yeah, and
they end up... The babies float, which is not something babies typically do over fire.
That's not something babies typically do, period.
But especially not over fire, you know?
That's
you
true.
Don't really expect them to be floating over a campfire, because you'd expect if you're testing out your baby's anti-gravity abilities, you wouldn't want to do it in a place where they could potentially plummet to a fiery death. That's me personally, though. I mean, I'm not here to parent shame.
You do you, parenting-wise.
But yeah, so the farm... Surprise, surprise, isn't a nice commune full of people who take in, girls who are pregnant out of wedlock. They're also a cult who harvest organs.
Yep. And then they have a weird, or it's implied that they have a weird, Heaven's Gate sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, except there's, a mass
yeah, they all
suicide,
disappear.
But not really.
Yeah, so a lot of people in Riverdale end up joining said cult, including Betty's mom, which... Betty is stressed out about because Alice ends up siphoning all of Betty's college money into the farm, which is kind of sus. And And the Griffins and Gargoyles thing is revealed to be, in part, because of the Sisters of Quiet Mercy who force feed, or who, like, dose their patients with drugs, and then put them into a chamber with a statue of the, quote, Gargoyle King as, like, either the big bad or just the general almighty, like, god you need to fear, which is weird because they're Catholic, so that sounds like idol worship to me, but whatever. They're also actually not technically Catholic because the Vatican, like, revoked their license to be Catholic in the 60s, and they just continued to be nuns for a very long time afterwards. So yeah, and the reason we find out how they've been, like, getting people to hallucinate the Gargoyle King, is because Betty gets sent to the Sisters of Quiet Mercy by her mother, who is, as we've kind of established, awful, and Betty ends up pulling a full-on Nellie Bly and just like, I'm gonna go along with this shit, but I'm actually going to be investigating.
Isn't it also, like, revealed that in addition to the Gargoyle King being thing propped up by the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, also, like, Cheryl's mom has chick running around in a Gargoyle King costume also creating mass hysteria?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point in season 3 yet, but that wouldn't surprise me. Again, I've forgotten most of this. Cheryl's mom is also, like, not only abusive and awful, but also ends up being a dominatrix. And she's also homophobic, which doesn't make sense to me, personally. But yeah, she runs a sex club, and she's still somehow like, lesbians, bane of the earth, an abomination, an aberration. It's like, ma'am, you beat up men for fun. Like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not kink-shaming, but it feels like someone in the kink community wouldn't be that critical of gay people? I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would say that there is a lot of contradictory feelings within like communities that it feels like you shouldn't have this opinion, but people still do. But we will save that for another episode.
Yeah, we're not equipped to talk about sex work fully or the implications, just general BDSM. So yeah, Cheryl's mom, dominatrix, abusive. Cheryl also ends up kicking her mother out some way or another. Campaign of terror is waged, I believe. So yeah,
well, Cheryl burns down her house, and then they're living in a second house, and then she kicks her mom out of that house.
Yeah, and then her mom ends up running a brothel, which, like, I don't know. I personally believe that sex workers should have rights, generally. But yeah, it's portrayed weird. It's a wild show, y'all. Let's see what I'm leaving out. Farm. Oh yeah, so Sisters of Quiet Mercy, because this is important to the later farm thing. So the Sisters of Quiet Mercy are doing a bunch of human rights abuses. They also have a gay conversion wing. Like, that is a thing that is explicitly named. They just have a wing, like a wing for it, called gay conversion. So Cheryl does end up getting sent there before she kicks her mom out. She escapes. People try to break out Betty as well, but that fails. And yeah, she kind of learns, like, oh, G&G is in part, like, to help sell more drugs? ? I don't know. If it sounds like I'm losing the thread, it's because I am, but also it's not my fault because the showrunners also lost the thread, I think,
the thread is very frayed and partially severed.
Yeah, it's real bad. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's the Gordian knot of threads right now, and I'm trying to piece through it. There just is not a sword strong enough to sever this thing. So yeah, Betty's like, you know, finding out all this stuff about G&G and drugs, and like the Sisters of Quiet Mercy are working with Hiram Lodge, who's again running the drug business, and the runoff from said drug manufacturing is getting its way into the water and somehow only affecting the girls of Riverdale, but that's what's causing the floating babies, because those were a hallucination, and the seizures that the girls of Riverdale have also all been having. I don't know why it affects only women. That feels like a point that should be addressed, and it just isn't. But yeah. And they're like, oh my god.
The most hand-wavy science of any show I've watched. And I watch a lot of superhero shows, which are 98% hand-wavy science.
So yeah, all of that's going on. So, like, the sisters are involved in, like, drug manufacturing with Hiram Lodge, and also human rights abuses, and then they get found out because Betty, basically manipulates the entirety of the, like, quote-unquote patience of the Sisters of Quiet Mercy to, like, just leave, to escape, because she pretends to be the, quote, Griffin Queen, which is apparently a force in opposition to the Gargoyle King, and is like, I've saved you from the Gargoyle King, follow me if you want to live, and then they all just walk out, and then she has a bunch of traumatized children living in her house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Alice, like, bundles all the children off to the farm, I believe, and also sells the house, which is then bought by Jughead's family, because Jughead's dad is now the sheriff, because Veronica's mom is the mayor, because Hiram Lodge appointed her the mayor, kind of? There was a lot of corruption going on that I'm still not fully sure how it tracks.
I mean, and then there's, like, the whole thing, like, Jughead ends up running the gang. Archie starts, like, 3 separate gang cult hybrid things.
Vigilante groups, quote-unquote.
Yeah. Veronica owns a speakeasy. Like, this is
Veronica
clearly...
not only owns a speakeasy underneath Pop's Diner, she also owns Pop's Diner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's of age when she buys it, but she has it. So that's a thing.
She doesn't...
And they do end up selling actual alcohol, which is great. Mm-hmm. Definitely doesn't have a license for that, but, you know, it's fun. Yeah.
Isn't it also, like, she doesn't buy Pop's Diner, she buys the White Worm and then trades it with her dad in some, like, weird underground deal, essentially?
I'm sure that's what happened.
Yeah, it's like... Because what I remember is the Serpents get driven out of the South Side because the Ghoulies are being funded by the Mafia. Mm-hmm. Sure. Veronica uses her inheritance, which she has already for some reason, to buy the White Worm and then trades it to her dad in, like, a weird pseudo-legal exchange of deeds for Pop's Diner. Because of course she does. Because why wouldn't she?
Yeah. So that's the thing. So... FP is now sheriff, which is nice. He's gotten better since the first season. He does do some character growth, which is nice. But, oh, surprise, surprise, now Gladys Jones, Jughead's mom, is rocked up to town, and she's gonna horn in on Hiram's, drug dealing trade that's gonna go on. Oh yeah, Archie's also in prison for a large part of season 3.
Yeah. Archie goes to prison and then gets co-opted into an underground fighting ring while in prison.
He also gets branded physically while in prison as a sacrifice because the prison warden is also playing G&G for some reason. And the warden ends up killing himself. There's a lot that goes on. Also, Archie introduces the prisoners of this juvie to football, like American football, and does a game. And Veronica finds out about this and brings the cheerleaders to do a cheer routine, like, from outside the fence of the prison yard?
Yeah, why not? Why shouldn't she?
Yeah, so then the gang breaks Archie out of prison, and then he's like, my honor! I didn't get exonerated. And then he does get exonerated, because of course he does.
But first he runs away to Canada.
But first he runs away to Canada, where he gets attacked by a bear! He fully gets attacked by a bear, hallucinates playing G&G, which is a game he's heard of but never actually played. Just kind of hallucinates through that, has a near-death experience, somehow survives, then comes back to Riverdale, where a whole bunch of shit happens. He's like, oh, I also have to take the SATs! And I haven't been to school in, like, most of the year.
Because Riverdale realized at some point, like, oh, this is supposed to be a show about high schoolers. We gotta, like, ham-fist in some high school stuff.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I can't focus during the SATs because I don't know what the fuck's going on. Because I'm pretty sure it's also mentioned that Archie didn't learn how to read until 2nd grade. And I think at this point in the show, he's just completely forgotten.
Archie Andrews is illiterate.
Archie Andrews is illiterate. I would say he's a himbo, but he's not even that. He's not even that nice. He tries to be, but he's not.
He's just dumb.
He's just a thought, is what he is. He is a monogamous thought, somehow.
I mean, I think his approach to monogamy is, like, break up with a girl and then immediately have sex with someone else. Like...
Yeah, that is kind of what happened, because, well, he was, on the run up to... Well, he wasn't on the run up to Canada, I don't think, with Jughead. But he was running away with Jughead at some point, right after he'd escaped from prison. And he was just, like, at a farm. Not the farm, just a farm in rural New England or Canada, maybe? I don't know. It's set in the Northeast. And he finds this, like, mysterious farmer girl and her little sister who are running the farm because, all the men are off working for the man in black who's Hiram Lodge making drugs. You know, as one does.
Like you do.
And Archie's way too trusting of mysterious people on rural farms in isolated areas. Like, everything I know about, like, either just, like, horror movies or zombie media has taught me, like, if there is a person at a farm who really wants to take care of you and take you in, be cautious because they may be eating people. Or they're just murderers. There are a lot of ways to kill someone with farm equipment. Anywho, Archie's such a fucking thought. She's like, hey, I need these bales of hay moved around in the morning if you just want to, like, that's your compensation for me letting you stay in our barn. And he's like, sure, I'll do it. And then he ends up doing it shirtless. This is a point that I will get to later, but Archie is shirtless for a lot of the episodes of Riverdale, which is a thing that I am against. But he, you know, moves around the bales of hay and he's like, oh, dang, I like farm life. And then she manages to get him in the barn, and you know straight edge razors? Like the knives that you use to shave your face?
Yes.
This dumbass is like this completely trustworthy person who I've never met before in my life, and who's demonstrated absolutely no acts of goodwill beyond letting me stay on hay bales in her barn, wants to shave my face and neck with the straight edge razor, with the objectively most deadly razor you can use on a person's face.
I mean, he deserves to get Sweeney Todd did. Sweeney Todded? Sure. We're gonna say that that's how I would make that into a verb.
Uh-huh. So she's just like, you know, again, scraping a knife up against his neck, while he's still shirtless, by the way, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't end up doing, like, anything, which is a missed opportunity. But she does also end up making out with him, and then he's like, oh, but I have someone back home. And I'm like, motherfucker, you broke up with her yesterday. What are you talking about? Yeah, Veronica and Archie have very weird terms for their relationship, because Veronica also eventually starts dating someone else while Archie's gone. And then Archie comes back and she's like, oh, let me drop this side piece and go back to my, you know, valiant paladin or whatever. Which is stupid. And Archie is shocked to find out that Veronica was dating someone else after he broke up with her and broke her heart, but, you know, whatever.
Isn't it also, like, at some point someone thinks Archie and Jughead are together? Like, I remember you texting me about that, and I was like, oh, a mood, though.
Yeah, because, like I said, Jughead and Archie are kind of traveling the world together. By the world, I mean, like, I think the Northeast and maybe Upper Midwest. And they end up in Toledo, where Jughead's mom is, and when Jughead sees that Archie and Jughead are, like, traveling together, she's like, I always knew you two, and, like, he's like, oh, you two are finally together, and they're like, no. But I found that very funny. I thought the, like, kick-ass drug-dealing, like, gang-running mom being like, aw, my boy's gay and dating his friend, that's nice. It was very sweet. And then Jughead's little sister, who's, like, 13, is like, so you're single, huh? And Jughead's like, fucking slow down. It's very funny. She flirts with... Jughead's 13-year-old sister tries to flirt with Archie, and it's very amusing. But yeah.
Nice.
I think she also ends up stabbing someone later in the day. She ends up stabbing, Penny Peabody, who tries to attack Jughead, I think. And then Jughead's mom kicks Penny Peabody's ass even more. Like I said, a lot happens. A lot goes on, a lot of stabbing.
When did Penny Peabody get to Toledo?
I don't know, she's been tracking them, apparently. I have no answers. The showrunners sure as hell don't.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. So that's a thing that happens. And yeah, season 4 is even more of a mess, somehow. I'm also completely forgetting most of what's going on in season 4, but I know it's a mess.
Yeah.
No, I don't like it.
They spend, like, half the season faking Jughead's death. It's like...
Oh yeah, they keep flashing back to when Jughead is apparently gonna die at some point. I don't know how, but, you know, They're like, and they imply strongly that it is the main cast's fault. Again, no idea how, but, you know.
Yeah. Alright. Well, that's maybe a plot summary. Maybe.
Maybe a plot summary. Fucking Google it if you're confused. I am too, quite frankly. But, yeah.
There's a really great channel on YouTube that I'm not gonna remember that will put out these, like, I try to explain the plot of Riverdale, videos, which may be helpful.
Mm-hmm. There are also, I think, some BuzzFeed articles that kind of run down what goes on episode by episode, that may not have gone beyond season 3. We'll link to it in the handy-dandy timestamp doc, in the description. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about various, I think, specific issues that I have with the show now, and I'll try to explain the context to each of these things as best as I can, but I make no promises for coherency. The first one that I wrote down on my little post-it is, Ethel got done did dirty, which is true. Ethel Muggs is a character on Riverdale. She's kind of a background character, but she really kind of makes a name for herself in season 3 when she, you know, is revealed to be, like, a patient at the Sisters of Quiet Mercy.
And also someone who plays G&G, I believe.
Yeah, she's a G&G player. And she's really into the Gargoyle King. She, like, is in love with him, maybe? I don't know. She has a vision board that, like, has pictures of, like, her and, like, representations of the Gargoyle King, like, put up, and there's a lot of, like, pink and glitter on it. It's jarring to look at. But yeah, she has a little vision board for that, which is, you know, that's cute. But Ethel Muggs' key point is that she's plus size. She's, like, played by a fat actor. And the thing that I get really upset about is she is romantically interested in Jughead, who's dating Betty, and of course both Jughead and Betty are, like, very fit, like, skinny people.
Yeah, it's Cole Sprouse and Lily Reinhart, like...
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, they're definitely much more, like, conventional Hollywood,
they're very
like,
much straight-sized, like, the kind of actors you expect to be in a teen drama on the CW.
Yeah. And Ethel, like, is into Jughead, and the way this is written is basically she is, like, delusional because she plays G&G and the Gargoyle King told her that her and Jughead would get together. And she's like, oh, actually, like, we're destined for each other. And there's a scene where, like, Jughead tries to play G&G with her, and she ends up, like, being like, well, in order for you to progress past this point, you have to kiss me. Which is gross and stuff. And also...
That all happens in the Apocalypse Bunker. In the Apocalypse Bunker, right?
In the Apocalypse Bunker, aka what I like to call the fuck bunker, because so many people have sex in there. It's really not okay. There's also an un-okay amount of, like, open candles just around, like, more than any teenager would have the forethought or inclination to light.
And in a space with little to no ventilation, I think is also important. Little to no
ventilation is a key point. And the candles do jack shit to light everything, because the lighting in Riverdale is absolute garbage. Everything is in total darkness, including the indoor daytime scenes at the school, because apparently fluorescent fucking lighting isn't a thing. It's like either you're half in shadows, half in, like, bright pink neon for most of the series.
Yes.
It's horrible. But yeah, so Ethel's played very much as, like, oh, how she's so silly for ever thinking that she could, like, you know, be with a guy like Jughead. And I don't think she ever gets a romantic interest either. Like, she doesn't get a legitimate... Or I think she kind of... No!
She's kind of... She's with one of... Or, like, she was dating or had something going on with one of the guys who committed suicide in, like, the first episode.
Of season 3, yeah. Thing is, she's like, oh yeah, we were together, we were a thing. And then later some other members of their G&G group were like, no, their characters were together, but she and Ricky weren't actually dating. So it's like, yeah, she's just this, like, oh, she's delusional and self-righteous, and how dare she, like, you know, think that she could ever be with someone who is, like, you know, as Eli said, straight-sized. So that's hella frustrating. She's also, like, they do musical episodes on Riverdale, because of course they do. They happen about once a season. And season 3's was Heather's, and one of the key, characters in Heather's is a girl named Martha Dunstock, who is bullied in the show because of her weight, because she's overweight. And instead of, like, writing that in, at that point, Ethel has been written off the show, so they have to replace the character of Martha with Betty Flynn, who is a character in the movie and in the musical, kind of, but like straight up just had to rewrite it because they don't have any other plus-size actors on the show, which is super fun and great and definitely realistic and not problematic whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Ethel Monks deserve better. Speaking on problematic viewpoints that speak to something a little bit darker, so Betty is worried for a lot of season 2 and 3, because she finds out that she has something called the serial killer gene. And they say the, like, gene's genetic, like, tag, like, the initials and numbers that are assigned to it, on screen. So I looked it up real quick, and apparently most of the rest of the people watching Riverdale at that point did as well, and found out that it is a gene that people use to point to aggression, and, like, antisocial tendencies. However, the gene, like, that is dubious at best and was also used, like, as justification for why Maori people are supposedly aggressive. So yeah, it comes from a racist thing that's probably at least a little bit tied to eugenics. So that's fun.
Well, it's definitely tied to eugenics.
Yeah.
If it was used to justify racist viewpoints,
yep,
I think that is inherently eugenics.
Yeah.
I mean,
so yeah. And, like, Betty also has this inner darkness that she's battling with, which expresses itself in season 1 and 2 as just, like, wearing a wig and doing BDSM things. Oh yeah, she also does waterboard a guy in a hot tub while in the BDSM outfit, but I don't think that had anything to do with BDSM. That was just her being tough. And then she completely forgets about it after season 2. And it's, you know, it's interesting. It's a
also
whole lot of worrying about nothing.
What's wild is that they were like, I can kind of understand the whole, like, oh, my dad's a serial killer, so there's something wrong with me, just because that's, like, the trope of any movie is someone in my family did this terrible thing, and that means I'm also a terrible person. But the minute that they were like, it's genetic, was when I was like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. So yeah, Betty's like, oh, what if I'm actually a terrible person? She's like, my serial killer dad forced me to bash my cat over the head with a rock because it was dying to, like, put it out of its misery, and I feel awful about it, but that must mean I'm a psychopath. And I'm like, by most definitions, I mean, psychopath isn't, like, in the DSM, but if you were, like, the way those are typically portrayed as being emotionless and, like, do not feel remorse, which she definitely did. So it was like, all of it's just bullshit. She's just worrying about nothing. But yeah, so that's a whole thing. And I guess we're gonna veer back onto lighter territory with, this show is so horny. And specifically, there's just the second that, I mean, like, Betty's mom fucking calls this out in, like, season 3 is the thing, like, when she's talking about her own youth, and she was like, oh, why did you hook up with him? It's like, well, we were young and attractive in the same room, and that's pretty much how this show works. If there is a couple on screen for any, like, given length of time, at some point they're gonna end up making out or having sex, and that's just the thing. A lot.
What was it? It was that in the season finale of season 1, which was when this show was, like, maybe okay, one of the last scenes is the Imagine Dragons song Believer with 2 different sex scenes occurring simultaneously over it.
Yeah.
The entire main cast is having sex over the song Believer. And it's just like, that's how we're gonna close this. I heard that
song as well, so now whenever I hear Believer by Imagine Dragons, I'm just like, oh, it's the sex song from Riverdale. They also have a sex scene cut over Copycat by Billie Eilish, which is, I think they only listened to the instrumental version of the track, because that's not a song that's about, like, sex or attraction or relationships in any way. It's about, like, fake people are, like, imitating me to try and get clout, and I'm not okay with that kind of song, but, you know, whatever. And there's also, when Cheryl and Tony finally do get a sex scene, which is really a doozy of a setup. It's also cut over Archie beating the shit out of someone in a boxing match as, I don't know, some other, like, indie rock song plays over it. But yeah, that was fun, the first instance of, like, I don't know, just having fight scenes cut over sex scenes doesn't sit with me well, because it's like, you shouldn't be associating those two things.
Yeah, I feel like it's especially the fact that they're definitely the only lesbian couple on the show. Are they the only, like, queer couple that actually lasts and is not, like, cult associated?
I think so?
Because I know Kevin and Joaquin were together.
Kevin and Joaquin are together, and then Kevin and Moose are together, and then, yeah. I think Moose they both end up joining the farm, and then Moose leaves everyone behind. So yeah, they're the only long-lasting queer couple on the show. It's a fun time.
Yeah, and I think especially to have that associated with, like, have that even, like, subtly, maybe not subtly, but have that even, like, insinuating an association with violence, specifically with the queer couple, is something that has happened a lot in media and is not okay. It's not okay to associate with any couple, but it's like, there's something especially insidious about making it, like, that's the first time you see a queer couple in that position. Whereas, like, not to say that, like, the straight couples get great sex scenes, but at least their sex scenes aren't inherently, like, associated with violence.
Yeah, at least their first scenes, and I think there are a couple straight sex scenes that are also, like, intercut with some violence, but it's not like, it just didn't, it's like, oh, this is the first time that, like, this queer couple has a sex scene, and you're gonna intercut it with Archie beating the absolute shit out of someone. Cool. Cool,
fun.
Fun and great. And as kind of part of the general horniness of the show, not only are the sex scenes constant, male members of the cast, particularly KJ Apa being shirtless, is constant. It's so constant. I fucking hate it. Yeah, so Archie, I think I ended up, like, I think the record is, like, maybe a minute in, 2 minutes in, maybe even shorter than that, but Archie does end up shirtless in most of the episodes. It's tiring. It's in situations where what really gets me is when he shouldn't really be shirtless, like I said earlier, when he was moving hay bales at that one farm that he was staying at, because, like, hay is itchy. You don't want that on your skin. Like, just wear a shirt. You want he's wearing work gloves, but not a shirt in that scene. Like, he's like, oh, my hands, can't get hay on my hands, but on my abs, totally chill. And, like, it's made doubly worse by the fact that I know most of the series is at least implied to be set in New England, because they're really close to Canada, and I think also New York. And I know for a fact
that they're supposed to be in the state of New York.
Yeah, and the show, yeah, there is a town of Riverdale in New York, but it's, I don't think, related to, I don't know how they feel about the show, but yeah, maybe. And, like, I know for a fact the show films in Vancouver, and KJ Apa is Australian, so this is a person from a very hot climate, filming in a very cold climate, and being topless for most of it, which is great. And there's another point where he's shirtless while hammering some nails into a thing to, like, make a sign, and he's not, I don't think he's even wearing, like, safety goggles, he's just doing carpentry, not only with no safety equipment, but with no shirt. I'm so tired, y'all. Yeah. And, like, I've mentioned this before, I think. Maybe not on the podcast, but definitely to people that I know. But I recently came out to myself. In fact, I think almost 6 months ago in 2 weeks. And part of how I figured out that I was gay was that, I was, like, watching a video from Susanna Polo, who is, I mentioned in our Lord of the Rings episode, she does great work. She did some videos for Polygon on, like, comic book stuff, and there was this one video she did is like, why is Archie hot? And then they showed, like, a clip of KJ Apa shirtless, and it was genuinely kind of, like, a revelation to me, like, oh, right, he's shirtless because people find that attractive. Like, people are attracted to that, is why that happens so much. And I was like, maybe that's a sign that I'm not into dudes. Oops.
I will say, out of that show, as someone who is on occasion attracted to men, I also don't get it. I feel like it's gratuitous. It's like, yeah, I get that there's a certain level of fan service, but come on.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, I think an especially gratuitous scene where it's like everything about the scene was ridiculous, and it included shirtless Archie, is I believe in the series premiere of season 2, there's a scene where Archie and Veronica take a shower together, but the entire shower is carpeted.
Sounds disgusting, but probably accurate.
It's the two of them, and I don't know how they filmed around it, but they're taking a shower together, and the whole shower is carpeted, and I was like, did no one question this at any point?
Just wet carpet. It's great.
Yep.
Veronica and Archie also have sex a lot. It's kind of the intersection of the two, like, main horny crossroads of the show. Including after Archie gets the shit beat out of him in a prison fight. Like, she sees him and they just can't keep their hands off each other, which is weird to me, because he's also definitely got, like, he's, I think at that point, just been branded. So it's like, maybe wait for the chest wound to heal before you engage in any sort of physical activity, including the one where another person is touching you most of the time. Perhaps. But yeah, Veronica and Archie just constantly going at it.
Yeah.
And then Jughead and Betty are honestly more like a married couple at this point. Like, they sleep in the same bed, but all their clothes are on. It's kind of funny. Because like I said, Jughead's family buys Betty's house at some point. And so that way Betty can stay in her old room, and then Jughead also is there. Which is, like, kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, KJ Appa's abs. I've memorized their layout, and not by choice. It's great.
You're cursed with this knowledge.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I guess it's impressive that you have abs, for sure, but I don't need to see them all the time. I just don't. Put your shirt back on.
Return yourself to being clothed.
Yeah. Then there's just the musical episodes. Like I said, I generally have a problem with it. I'm going to focus on the Heathers episode, because that's the one that's freshest in my mind. As I mentioned before, they fully wrote out the plus-size character, because that person was not in the main cast at that point. Not in any of the story arcs. Not that it mattered anyway, because they adhered to the plot of Heathers approximately none of the time. Yeah, so Heathers is at its core a musical that examines the implications of an incredibly socially stratified high school that, like, people engage in bullying in, and can you ever really truly get rid of bullying by getting rid of a bully? Trick question, you can't change oppressive systems by changing the hearts and minds of individuals. You have to overhaul the system, which is, I think, eventually the conclusion that they come to. But Heathers also includes a lot of staged suicides, actual suicides, murder, you know. There's, at one point, an attempted rape scene, which is a whole thing.
It's a very dark... I have never seen anything related to it, but I know it's a very dark story.
Yeah, it's a dark show, and it's like a funny show, and it's a show that I really like, because it does, I think, handle a lot of topics really well, and it's just the general vibes, and the songs are catchy, all very good. So, like I said, Flight, at its core, about bullying. Thing is, for all the topics that Riverdale's covered, never really addressed bullying. Social stratification stopped being an issue once gang warfare started coming in.
Yes.
Like, the children of Riverdale have bigger fish to fry than, like, what someone else thinks of your outfit. So a lot of the songs straight up don't work. They cast, Josie, of Josie and the Pussycats fame, because that intellectual property also belongs to Archie Comics, I guess? I don't know.
Perhaps. It could.
Yeah, so Josie from Josie and the Pussycats is there, except by this point the Pussycats have disbanded, and I think all but disappeared into the background. And then Josie herself ends up getting written off later, to go off to New York to join another CW spinoff. But yeah, so Josie is a black girl, and she is cast as Veronica, the lead, not to be confused with Veronica, the lead of the actual show Riverdale. And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, cool, dope, like, you know, I think that the Veronicas that I have heard of and seen have been white women, and so having, like, a black girl in the main role, the lead role, is really great, and Josie is also just a very good singer. So that's ideal. Fucking great. Fucking class. A+.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, she gets none of the solos that her character gets. The only time she actually gets a number is when she's singing with Archie, who she's dating at that point in time. She's hooking up with him.
Sure.
So yeah, the only songs she gets are singing with her white love interest. She doesn't actually interact with the Heathers, who Veronica as a character spends most of her time with. Like, the girls playing the Heathers and Josie are completely, like, separate. They're completely isolated from each other. I'm not sure that Josie's even in the main dance numbers. So she gets all but completely written off for this show, this episode, where really she should be the main star. She should be the focus. Yep. And that's frustrating for a number of reasons.
I do think it's also kind of emblematic of how they treat Josie as a character, because she as a character is also really only there to prop up, like, the musical inclinements of the white male lead.
Yeah.
She gets very little focus outside of, like, direct relation to a white man story.
Yeah. So that's a whole frustrating thing. The gripes don't end there, though, because at this point, you see, Cheryl and Tony have broken up for a variety of reasons. For background, Tony is, I believe, homeless. She's from, like, a very impoverished, I think, also abusive family. She doesn't have a lot of money. She is very smart. She works very hard, but she was, from a very disadvantaged background. Cheryl is fucking rich. So the power balance that kind of happened when Tony moves in with Cheryl is not fabulous. And then Cheryl ends up like, you got kicked out of the Serpents because I stole a Glamour egg that I definitely didn't need because, again, my family has oodles of money. Why the fuck would I need to commit a felony to get some cash? So Cheryl and Tony both get, like, booted from the Serpents. They keep their jackets for some fucking reason. But she's like, I'll fix this. I'll fix this by, very nearly outing another one of our classmates and then starting our own girl gang. Cheryl tires me as a character. And then
making peace with the Serpents.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Pretty Poisons are the girl gang that they start, and then there's disagreements over how they manage it, because Tony doesn't want Cheryl to use the Pretty Poisons to beat up members of the Serpents without her permission, which seems like a reasonable request. But whatever, at this point, Cheryl breaks up with Tony in a really bad way, and then I don't know what Tony does about her living situation. Again, I think it's implied that she's homeless. She might stay with someone else, but yeah.
After the Serpents have gotten kicked out of the South Side?
So they're living in, like, a tent city.
Yeah. So she's definitely homeless because, like, the housing establishment that they did have got most of them kicked out because they didn't own their property because Hiram Lodge is a terrible person, essentially.
Yeah, except Tony has also been exiled from the Serpents, so I'm, again, genuinely not sure what happened to her for that episode. But Cheryl's just really bitchy to her, and then Tony shows up wearing red, which is Cheryl's color, and so Cheryl's like, you need to leave this school and never come back, and I'm like, bitch, for what school?
Red is
school!
Free license.
And it's like part of the big musical number, which does happen in Heathers, where Heather Chandler tells Veronica, again, who should be, like, Josie in that instance, that she needs to fuck off because she's gonna ruin her life. So Tony then, and I should mention that Tony is also played by a black actor, Vanessa Morgan, and Tony is canonically bisexual. So just keep these two things in mind as we progress, because, oh man. So after this, like, big blow up, the next number in the musical starts, which is Dead Girl Walking, which is the song that the main character sings, again, after Heather Chandler threatens to ruin her life and basically just, like, end her shit. And the way that, in the musical, Veronica reacts to this is by going over to her main squeeze, JD's house, and losing her virginity in, like, the most top energy way possible. It's a great number. That I definitely would never want to listen to with my parents around. And they tone it down because they're using the high school version of Heather's for the episode, because rating rules.
Yes.
But it's still very explicitly about sex. And the thing is, Tony doesn't have a main squeeze outside of Cheryl, but she's bisexual, so that's not a problem. She's just gonna grab, I believe her lieutenant from the Pretty Poisons, who's a girl, and some random serpent dude.
Just a guy.
And she, like, tugs them both on stage, sings, like, the big part of the song, and it's very strongly implied that she's about to just have sex with both of them, like, have a threesome with them on this stage after hours, but still, like, in an empty auditorium, but on stage in, like, a very showy, brazen way.
In a pseudo-exhibitionist way.
Mm-hmm. And then she, like, imagines Cheryl being sad at that, and so she doesn't, but it's still like, oh, the bi character got dumped hard. Threesome on the stage, because that's...
Immediate threesome.
Mm-hmm, because, you know, bi people and people who are not, like, just attracted to one gender definitely act like that all the time. It's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I respond to emotional devastation, 100%.
So that's super fun and great. Yeah, and Tony, the reason I was so confused about her housing status at the beginning of this discussion is because we never fucking learn anything about her beyond her, like, season 2 introduction. Much like...
Well, we do learn one thing. We learn that her grandfather, was one of the founders of the Serpents, and that she's at least partially native. Like, that's a whole thing. And then there's, like, a weird colonialist message that is there for, like, one episode and then never gets addressed again, even though, like, they introduce some very problematic things in that episode. But it's, like, again, they are introducing, like, what could have been a very serious discussion about the seizure of native lands by white colonizers, but they are doing it only to further a white man's, in this case, Jughead's, personal growth. And then they never acknowledge the fact that, like, all of the stuff that could have been, like, very personal to Tony and really grown her as a character with her heritage and her, like, fighting for the recognition of native peoples in the history of Riverdale instead gets kind of thrown under the rug because Jughead learns how to be a better person, and that's all that matters.
But, again, aside from that, again, in which Tony doesn't really even get the spotlight, we don't really see much of Tony outside of her relationship with Cheryl. Like, we see absolutely none of it. So again, this is a black character played by a black actor who is completely relegated to supporting side, like, flavor text for the white protagonist. It's gross as hell. Oh yeah, at some point in season 3 or 4. Meh. Cheryl...
Some point in the back half of the show.
Yeah, sometime in the back half of the show, Cheryl also gets strongly attached to, her brother's preserved embalmed corpse. 'Cause that's around.
And she's also on drugs at this point.
She's on drugs to hallucinate, so she thinks that it's actually her living brother that she can talk to. But then even, like, 'cause of the farm, and they're like, oh, we can let you connect with your loved ones. And she's like, this is fine, completely normal. And then after the farm gets taken down, and she's not on the drugs anymore, she still keeps the corpse around.
Yep.
And just has it in the chapel that she has in her house. And just puts him in a wheelchair and, like, reads to him. And Tony finds out about this, and for some fucking reason, does not escape! Oh yeah, Cheryl also learns that she's actually a triplet, but she absorbed their triplet in the womb, and so that means that she has 2 consciousnesses inside of her, except she doesn't. That's not a thing, and it's... On the show, it's not a thing, but she thinks it's a thing. She thinks she's being possessed by her dead brother. His name is something I can't remember. It was, I think, a J name.
Isn't there, like, a doll of him also?
Yeah, there's a doll of him, and she's like, oh, this is possessed by the ghost of my dead triplet who I absorbed in the womb. That's also not possessed, it turns out. No! She actually used the doll to gaslight Tony into thinking that the house was haunted, I believe. 'Cause she was, like, moving it around and stuff.
'Cause that's what you should do with your romantic partner.
Yeah, is in a situation where they really don't have any housing options, besides your home, is to make them think that the doll that you think is your dead brother is malevolent and after them.
Yeah.
And she admits, she's like, I'm so sorry for gaslighting you, Tony, and Tony's like, whatever, it's fine. I'm done with this. Just Tony needs to escape. Tony needs to find someone else.
Tony deserves better.
Tony deserves
is the message that we're trying to tell you.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess moving further into the Cheryl problem, TM. I have several issues.
As if there is only one?
Well, Cheryl is the problem.
Fair enough.
You know, from what you've heard, you're probably thinking, she's not a great person. What made her this way? Well, like I said, abusive parents. She's also just... But, like, that gets contradicted in a lot of very interesting ways, because, like I said, she tries to, she puts a blind item on, like, the school, like, morning announcements. And she's like, oh, a certain member of the ROTC, is actually, like, gay, but he's scared to come out, so let's show him that it's, like, you know, Riverdale's an accepting place, so that, you know, he and his Broadway-loving boyfriend can finally go on a date together. Very narrowly outing Moose, who that blind item was blatantly about, so that Kevin... There's a whole thing with Moose needing to come out to his parents so that Kevin and Moose could fully date, and there's a lot there, but, like, the implications of outing another student when you yourself come from an incredibly homophobic background does not track for me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's played as like, oh, you're very privileged and like you have all this stuff and you don't understand the consequences of this. And it's like, she is privileged in that she has a lot of money, but also she would understand the consequences of being, like, revealed as gay to a parent who wouldn't be accepting. I'm not sure why she's not more sympathetic. I don't...
Yeah, I mean, I think that the other thing about Cheryl being, like, one of the two lesbian characters, I guess?
Queer women characters, yeah.
Yeah, queer women, women who date other women, is that they spend most of the first season and a good part of the second season with some heavy incest vibes between her and Jason, and then they turn around and give her a female love interest, and I was like, I feel like you need to spend a lot more time unpacking and resolving the incest.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a perfect jumping off point, because, as, you know, the listeners of this podcast now know, I am a lesbian. I am also a twin with a twin brother. In these two respects, I am like Cheryl, and I fucking hate it. Because, here's the thing. This is a thing I've noticed this is just a thing that I think I notice more because I am in the familial situation of I have a twin brother, and I am a girl, but typically when fraternal boy-girl twins are shown on TV, there is a lot of the time an implication that there's incest going on, because, you know, because boys like girls, and girls like boys, so if there are boy-girl twins, then they like each other. Like, it's the worst possible incarnation of men and women can't ever just be friends. And I'm here to tell you, that's not how it works at all. That's not a thing. So I am a little bit more sensitive to that kind of thing. So seeing Cheryl and Jason's relationship definitely played up as like, okay, they're definitely way too attached to and possessive of each other. Like, Cheryl has definitely invested way too much into her relationship with Jason. This is, like, unhealthily codependent. There's strong incest vibes going on. I was like, And instead of being like, well, kids in abusive households turn to whatever they can for love, and if that's how they find it, then that's fine. And Madeline Petch actually addressed this. She was like, I did not play Cheryl as someone who was in love with her brother. I played Cheryl as someone whose only opportunity for love was her brother, so it wasn't, like, romantic or sexual. But I call bullshit, because the showrunners knew what they were doing when they played a romantic song and had them hold hands and share milkshakes and shit. That's not a sibling thing to do.
Yeah, I think that it was, no matter how she played it, it was definitely edited in a way that it was like...
This is incestuous.
Even if you can make an argument like, oh, it's not overt, it still, like, is coded that way enough that multiple people have walked away being like, that's some...
Yeah. And then midway through season 2, they turn right back around. It's like, nope, Cheryl's been a lesbian the whole time. Not only is she not into her brother, she's not into any men whatsoever. Silly goose, why would you ever think that, you know, she's into girls? And it just bugged me so much, because it's like, I don't know. I do not want that kind of lesbian fraternal twin representation. Do not want it.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't.
And then,
like, yeah, it's a whole
I was going to say, another thing that adds on to that is purely, like, an acting choice that they made, is in the third season, they have a flashback episode where the main cast are playing their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And Cheryl's playing her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course she is. And then the person that they get to play her dad, who grows up to have a romantic and sexual relationship with her mom, is the actor who played her twin.
Yeah.
And there's a whole, like, weird incest thing going on there, also.
Yeah, that one's...
between those two characters.
Yeah, that's an explicit incest storyline, because Cheryl's
choices.
mom, it turns out, was adopted by the Blossom family from the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, because of fucking course. Because Cheryl's mom is a redhead, as are all of the Blossoms. And so she was adopted by the Blossom family and then raised to eventually marry her adoptive brother, Clifford. And then they produced, Cheryl and Jason. So yeah, there is, like, an explicit, like, this family is willing to do, at the very least, borderline incestuous things, and they are very concerned with keeping things in the family, like, the Blossoms and Betty's family, the Coopers, are cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point of season 1, or a big plot point, is that Jason, Cheryl's brother, and Polly, Betty's older sister, were together, and Polly is pregnant with Jason's children, who are, also twins, because of course. And, like, the Blossoms are psyched about this, because it's like, well, we get to keep it all in the family, and it's just the fucking grossest thing. Like, even if, like, cousins are a gray area, I get it, and they're, like, I think distant cousins at best, but it's still, like, gross.
Well, I think it is that it's either, I don't know how, they're, like, distant is in, like, it would be legal in most states, because I think that they're second cousins, but that's still, like, second cousins really do mean 2 generations apart.
Yeah, and they didn't know they were cousins at that point, I don't think.
They didn't know they were cousins, but their parents knew they were cousins.
And they were like, ah! And then the Blossoms were like, this is fine. So yeah, this show, everyone's gonna end up related to someone at some point. I'm just waiting for it to be like Once Upon a Time, where it's just like you have to draw a very complicated family tree to just determine whether or not it's technically okay for 2 characters to be dating. So yeah, and it bugs me. Like, I think the only show that's really done fraternal boy-girl twin representation well is Gravity Falls, disregarding anything that the fandom may produce. Because Gravity Falls, surprise surprise, was created and written by a fraternal twin who has a sister. Shout out to Alex Hirsch. Like, that dynamic is written really well, because it's like, they're separate people, and, like, they're friendly, but they're not, like, codependent on each other. Because my brother and I get along fine, but we are just siblings who happen to share a birthday. It's not...
Yeah.
It would be... And, like, people always freak out, like, oh, wow, you're a twin? And I'm like, what if I freaked out and was like, oh, you have an older brother? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. The, like, weird ways people play twins is like, oh, they move in sync and have a hive mind. Yeah. Something that I am bugged by. But yeah, and just everything about Cheryl, like, this girl somehow does not end up seeing a therapist, also ends up raising her niece and nephew. She ends up raising Jason's kids, Juniper and Dagwood, I think. They appear in and out of the series. I don't think they ever become toddlers, despite the fact that they're with them for over a year.
They're just vibing.
They're just there. They're there occasionally. They are 2 baby dolls that people occasionally pull out for effect. As one should treat children.
Riverdale, the home of healthy family dynamics.
Yeah, there is literally the one good parent in Riverdale, who's played by Luke Perry. Luke Perry, unfortunately, died, I think, this past year.
Yeah, I think it was...
Yeah. It was a stroke, I think.
Either right before or, like, in the process of filming the most recent season, I want to say.
Yeah, and Fred Andrews really was the only parent that was, like, genuinely, consistently stable and loving and supportive, and not revealed to be a serial killer or a criminal at any point. Unlike most parents on Riverdale.
Yep.
Oh yeah, also, Betty's mom is an undercover FBI agent, and that's why she joined the farm. We didn't mention that earlier, I don't think, but that's the thing.
Yeah. Because why wouldn't she be? At that point, why not?
Yeah, and after the farm gets run out of Riverdale, they end up going to an abandoned hotel outside of town, where the cult leader is... And I sound like I'm joking or exaggerating, and I'm not. He's building a rocket ship. Legitimately.
I'm saying, it's some Heaven's Gate. Like,
I guess so. They all faked their own disappearance and then shacked up in an abandoned hotel. And Edgar Evernever, the leader of the cult, who also, circling back to incest, I feel like that's a sentence that I would maybe hear in playwriting if I just overheard Brendan talking, but circling back to incest.
Back
shout
on
out
the
to
topic
Brendan.
of incest.
So, Edgar Evernever is the leader of the cult, and I think is implied to have a harem, maybe? I don't know. He's a charismatic dude. He also ends up shirtless at some point in the series. Most of the men on the show do. Including all of the dads.
Because why wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm. All of the dads are very muscular, but still, it's kind of odd. So yeah, Edgar Evernever is, like, running the cult, and his quote-unquote daughter, Evelyn, goes to the high school. It turns out that Evelyn has, in fact, faked her age, and she's actually in her 30s, which is kind of hypocritical, because most actors on Riverdale are actually in their 30s playing high schoolers. But she's like, oh yeah, I'm secretly in my 30s, and I'm not Edgar's daughter, I'm his wife.
Sure. You know, at this point, that might as well be true.
So it's a whole gross thing. But anyway, Edgar's like, I want to build a one-person rocket ship and take off. So that's a whole thing.
I mean, you know, if that's your dream, man, sure.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the Cheryl issue, the incest issue. Let's move on to Archie. He's not involved in any incest. He's an only child as far as I know. But
yeah.
He's my least favorite character. Even beyond that of Cheryl, he is my genuine least favorite.
I also want to point out, I read the Archie comics, and Archie was fine in the Archie comics, because he was like,
I
just
bet he was. I'm sure most of these people were fine.
So it was very funny watching, he was fine. I was like, oh, cool. And then watching him just be this, like, they tried to make him, like, I feel like the way that they wrote Archie initially, he worked as, like, the everyman, except this isn't a comedy, it's a drama, and you don't need an everyman in a drama, because it's, like, dramas inherently are supposed to be realistic enough that you don't need, like, a filter to be like, and this is the world and I accept it. But he's just kind of there. He doesn't really have a personality, season 1. He's just hot and dates, like, 3 women. Including his teacher.
Oh, yeah, he does! Forgot about that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Archie spends, like, the first 6 episodes in a weird relationship with his teacher, and then he spends the next 6 episodes with, a member of the Pussycats, who I think after they break up disappears from the series, never to be seen again. And then he starts dating Veronica.
So yeah. Archie, he started out, like Eli said, an everyman. He didn't really have much of a personality beyond, should I do sports or should I do music? And then, like, that kind of went away when all the murders really started kicking in, and, like, he's like, he has a savior complex of some kind. He has this very strong desire to be like, I need to save everyone, it's my job to protect people and be aggressive and fight off, whatever is plaguing our town. He's not very good at doing that. He generally is constantly just, like, getting in over his head in, like, criminal dealings, or, like, beating up people he really shouldn't beat up, or getting beat up by people with more experience than him. Like, there are several points where people are like, you really shouldn't try to do, like, he picks up boxing at some point, because of course he does, and his coach is like, you really shouldn't try going into a professional match right now. You still need to work on your technique. He's like, no, I can fight. Let me fight. Like, it's some kind of, like, put me in, coach, I can do it. But it's not like, oh, I have the ability and I just haven't, been given a chance to shine. It's like, you genuinely don't have the ability yet. You don't know what you're doing.
Good. Stop.
He starts 3 different vigilante groups over the seasons.
King behavior.
Yeah, it's great. And, generally tries to stop crime. Again, doesn't know what he's doing because he doesn't take the time to genuinely... He starts a community gym, right? And it's meant to be a safe place for kids to go and learn how to defend themselves and spend time outside of, like, drug dealing and gang dealings and stuff, because apparently Riverdale is a big enough town to warrant having a bad neighborhood. Which is weird
with
because
two different gangs.
Yeah, 2 different gangs. It's supposed to be a small town. It feels really like they wanted to set it in New York City, but they couldn't they couldn't figure out how to do it. So he starts this, like, he starts this, like, community center gym thing. And then he's like, but I can't stay away from vigilantism, and my dad would want me to do this, despite the fact that his dad spent so much time telling him not to do this. His dad was like, this is bad, stop getting in trouble with all of these adult criminal rings, you need to stop. But he's like, the only way to honor my dad's legacy is to protect people, and the only way I can do that is by beating the shit out of people. And again, you can't solve, like, huge issues like that by just beating up a few people or getting rid of a few people. You need to do a systemic, like, overhaul of what's going on in that neighborhood. He doesn't listen to what any of the kids in that neighborhood genuinely, like, need or want. I'm sure they wouldn't want him angering and agitating the people who are drug dealers in their neighborhoods, like, where they live, and who are already, like, keeping an eye out on, like, this gym to recruit kids. But he decides that he knows what's best, and he goes out and he just beats the shit out of a bunch of people.
As you do.
He has no self-preservation instincts. Like I said, he's a monogamous thought, somehow. And yeah, he's just generally... Everything he does is just so stupid and it revolves around violence or conflicted feelings that don't make sense. So yeah. There's that. It's just a bunch of... Riverdale's just shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to any of what I just said? Because I think I've run myself out of steam.
I will say, I think, like, the thing with Archie is that he could have been a very interesting character, I think, because he started off with, like, in the middle of something objectively very traumatic, because he was a victim of statutory rape, it is implied, for at least a full summer and part of a school year. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, they started themselves off in, like, you could have had a story, or at least something revolving around Archie, who does fall into, like, the very classic trope of, not fully understanding that, like, what's happening to him is like, inherently morally corrupt, trying to protect his abuser from, legal retribution, very much, like, trying to keep it a secret. And so I think, like, they started off with a character who could have been legitimately interesting, of, like, tracing the narrative of him dealing with that trauma and dealing with, like, coming to terms with what actually happened to him, as opposed to this kind of very glorified view he has of it. And then also, like, it's with a male person who I think in media, as, in real life, are kind of, like, a lot of times, outside of conversations where male abuse victims are being used to silence the voices of female abusers, often not by the abuse victims, male abuse victims are being used to silence female victims of abuse, often not by the abuse victims themselves, but by, like, other men who are just bad. But I think he could have been a very interesting, like, this is an example of a young man who's suffered abuse and, like, how he deals with it. Instead, they turned him into this, like, emblem of toxic masculinity, which is, like, that is, as a writer, that personally disappointed me, because I thought that if they had allowed him to be vulnerable and to, like, deal with his emotions in a way other than, like, ah, man, violence, I think they would have had a much more interesting character, at least the first season, regardless of what happened, like, in later seasons to him.
They just have, like, very traumatic things happen to characters and then just kind of skate past it. It's just kind of the habit of, like, there's just constantly very heavy topics being bandied about in the name of creating more drama or raising stakes, and then once the stakes have been raised, once the drama has been created, it's served its purpose and it doesn't need to impact the storyline anymore, which is something that really bugs me. Not just from, like, a continuity standpoint, basically, because a lot of this stuff should have lasting effects on the characters and the world. But, like, just from a human perspective of, like, well, this fucking sucks and is not how trauma or, like, these big changes work. But yeah.
I think another probably pretty good example of that, is in the first season when Jughead is just homeless. He's homeless. And it's, like, fully implied that his mom abandoned him to live with his alcoholic and probably abusive dad. And then they never, like, address that. He's like, yeah, my mom took my sister and left me to go start a new life. And then later he's like, hey, I need to get out of town. Can I come live with you? And she straight up is like, no, you can't. And they never talk about, like, the things that actually are going on in these people's lives, which is insane.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. And I also will say that, like, part of why I'm very frustrated with Cheryl is because, like, in season 2, she kind of got better. Like, there was some character growth being made. That was really the season where she came to terms with her own sexuality. That was the point where she was, like, again, finally, in a very ridiculously campy way, but in, you know, no uncertain terms, nevertheless, like, getting rid of her abusive mother. And just generally kind of, like, improving as a person and recovering from the trauma of the first season, which, by the way, and I think the season finale, she attempts suicide and Archie saves her, and that's a whole thing. He saves her by punching ice until it breaks.
Yeah, she attempts suicide by going out onto a frozen lake, and then just kind of waiting there for the ice to crack, which is also, like, that is objectively a horrifying way to die, because it's drowning yourself in ice-cold water. And drowning is by no means a slow process. So that's another thing that they fully don't talk about.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, what I meant was drowning is by no means a quick process, and to do it in ice-cold water means that you are on much higher alert probably the whole time.
Yeah. And then Archie punches through ice to save her because... Grr, manly man. It's a thing. So yeah, that's just a whole thing that's, like, just fully never mentioned. But Cheryl does, like, some growth, like, an amount of growth that, like, she's on friendly terms with most of the cast, and then season 3 she completely backslides into this antagonistic, privileged, just bitchy role. Like, she's a horrible person again, and she only gets worse. And actually, I'm gonna circle back to the Cheryl thing even more fully, and back to the sex scene thing, because the Cheryl and Tony sex scene that we mentioned earlier, is taking place kind of in the middle of while they're in a rocky patch in their relationship. Like, it's very not clear if they're back together or not, if there's been any forgiveness. Like, they're being antagonistic towards each other, and the Pretty Poisons have been hired to guard La Bonne Nuit during its casino night, because Veronica could somehow legally procure the means to run a casino night from her underground speakeasy for children. And I think Cheryl gets caught, like, cheating or something, or, like, trying to steal, and Tony stops her, and then it gets very weird from there. Like, they don't have any conversations about, hey, it's kind of shitty that, like, you know, you kicked me out when I didn't really have any other living options. Nor is there any discussion of, like, just anything. But, yeah, and I may be mixing up plot points, but again, I don't really give a shit at this point. It's at a point where there's no discussion of, like, long-term what the ramifications will be, or, like, oh, this is before the Heathers episode, so it's before they make up. Ha! So I am right. But yeah, it's a very awkward scene of, like, Tony confronting Cheryl about, I think, stealing something from the casino, like, as she's trying to escape with the goods. And then Cheryl says the words, "What are you gonna do, cuff me?" And then they have sex, and it's on a table fully, and it's just like, why is this the point? Instead of maybe building to a scene that was, like, I don't know, healthy? Nice? Didn't make
Those
me want
to... Those words are foreign to the creators of Riverdale, my friend.
Yeah, like, just made me want to, like, peel off all my skin and jump into the bayou. It was very uncomfortable. And again, it was intercut with Archie beating the shit out of somebody, which was great. So yeah, that was the context in which we got the first lesbian sex scene in Riverdale.
Yep. It's a whack show.
Yeah, and people are starting to leave it. Members of the main cast are beginning to not come back to the show, which is great. Jughead's dad and Veronica's mom being, I think, the two main ones, which is great. And both the actors for Josie and Tony are, like, now better able to speak up about getting better just storylines in general for their characters. I'm not sure how much of a promise that is on Riverdale, but at least getting more than just side support characters for the white cast. Which is, I mean, I'm hopeful about it, but it's Riverdale, so I'm not holding my breath. So yeah.
I mean, it's also, like, the Josie's character, it's like, oh, Josie's in the big city or whatever, but if I actually went and I watched that trailer, and it looks like she's again going to be relegated to kind of, at the very least, a secondary role to white protagonists.
Yeah, she's not the main character.
Yeah.
She is, I believe, playing back up to Aria from Pretty Little Liars and someone else.
But, you know, I hope that those actresses are getting, 'cause, like, both characters are very interesting, and Josie, when she does get storylines, it's like she has a very complicated life and a very complicated relationship with her parents, that I feel really deserved more time than it got, because it's like her parents are separated, and her dad is a successful musician, I think is what it's implied.
Yeah.
And she wants to be a musician, and so she's, like, really trying to prove herself to her dad, and he is completely not, like, acknowledging her or giving her very real talents the appreciation they deserve. And that comes up in one episode, and it is completely, like, sidebarred for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and then Josie's mom and dad do fully get divorced, and then Josie's mom ends up marrying former Sheriff Keller, who is Kevin Keller's dad, and Kevin Keller's the gay character, the gay dude character. So they just kind of shoved everyone into one little diversity corner, and it's never, like, I don't know, I would have loved to see more of Kevin and Josie interacting, maybe, just kind of outside of what their parents are up to, but, you know, it's fine. Also, the parents have a lot of sex scenes on Riverdale, too, which is I'm not a fan of, including between former Sheriff Keller and Attorney McCoy, Josie's mom.
Because of course.
Yeah, because of course. And they do, like, some weird cop or DA role-playing. It's a whole thing. I didn't like it. Did not like it. Did not appreciate it. Did not want it to happen. No bueno. So, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to say?
Riverdale is clearly not written with the best interests of a lot of marginalized groups in mind, despite how much it promotes itself as, like, an edgy, boundary-pushing liberal show.
Yeah. I think it is, again, one of those shows that's like, we're pushing boundaries by having teens be super involved in sex and drugs and gangs and murder, and it's like, that's not really pushing a boundary, that's just kind of, like, writing stories that are intended to traumatize children, which is maybe not the stories that we want to be promoting.
Like I said, it's an emotionally draining thing watching Riverdale for me, because you just end up getting so worked up over, like, just everything going on. Like, from a writerly standpoint, there's not a whole lot of coherence. From a human being standpoint, these people don't feel like humans. It's deeply frustrating. So yeah, I don't know. I've texted you a lot of things about this show over, I guess, the years, plural, the year, maybe, I don't know. But what are some things that, like, I've texted you that you were, like, either confused about or just generally stuck in your mind, if any?
I think one of the ones that you texted me about, well, obviously, like, the whole narrative of, like, the speakeasy and all of that, and I was like, this is confusing as all heck.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's definitely been any time that, like, relationship stuff was happening, it was always like, I cannot, because the thing is that nothing sticks in my mind week to week. I read it and I'm like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be like, oh, this relationship drama, and I will fully forget that two people are together or two people aren't together, and it's like,
mm-hmm.
Riverdale is a very confusing show to hear about from the outside, is
mm-hmm.
what that's
It's a very confusing show to watch from the inside.
That's fair. I think also, the one thing that's very funny is I can tell how incensed you are over, different plot points by the length of the text and the whether or not it's in caps.
Yeah. Very long texts.
Yes.
Yeah, or it's me just, like, dissecting why something shouldn't be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, according to this, da-da-da-da, but then this, da-da-da-da, and ah! So yeah, it's a fun time. Yeah, I feel like it's really one of those shows that would be best if I watched it with another person, like, in the room with me to make fun of. I feel like then it would be entertaining, like, and not such a, like, infuriating thing to do, because, like, it's fun making fun of things in person with someone else, but, like, just texting, it hits different, man. So yeah, maybe when quarantine's over you can come and suffer through this with me.
Nice. Here's a good one that just kind of, I think, encapsulates why you texted me. That's a niche joke that you won't, or quote, that's a niche joke that you won't get, but this text chat is an abyss I'm personally screaming into as an act of catharsis, self-care, release, means that your enjoyment of anything I write here is entirely incidental until the episode ends.
Yeah.
End quote.
I think that was written very late at night as well.
When did I receive that? That was received at, 9:24 p.m.
Okay. I have watched, past midnight because I was staying up to register for SATs, and I was like, well, might as well do this. So that was a lot of fun 2 a.m. texts.
Mm-hmm.
It was also just my rage at College Board.
Yes.
Because I could not register.
Funny.
It took me, 10 times to register for the SAT, and not even when I first tried.
Mm-hmm. I think it was especially funny because you were telling me these grievances against the SAT, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna handle that tomorrow. And I fully expected it to go terribly and to take forever. And then I got through first try because apparently no one was on there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and then it took me, I think, 3 additional days before I could try and, like, get registered for a date 3 months after when I wanted it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a cursed being.
College Board. I think College Board was really just giving me a break after, I had to take the AP Chem exam twice, because, you know.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's
You win some, you lose some.
Mm. But yeah, that's all we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we should mention that the professional podcast thing that we're adding this time around is going to be a spoken outro, which we're going to try and do on the fly right now this minute.
Yeah.
So, we are available on 7 different podcasting platforms and YouTube. So check back here.
As I say, we are available some of the places podcasts are distributed, including the big ones like Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And Google Podcasts. Not Google Play, Google Podcasts. It's a new app that they've rolled out, which I've been using, and works pretty well. We do have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Stick around next Wednesday afternoon for the next episode. Do you want to tell the good people of the internet what the next episode's about, or do you want it to be a surprise?
Well, I was gonna say, other things that we should probably mention, as Caroline said earlier, we have our Gmail, heynerpodcast@gmail.com, available for anything that you want to send us, but also Blue Apron, if you're out there and you're listening, that's our business email. Drop us an email, man.
HelloFresh as well. First come,
Anyone,
first serve on
ExpressVPN, anyone who wants to sponsor us, we're open.
Cast
there
for
will
F's
be...
is Brooklinen. Audible. Well, maybe not Audible. They're owned by Amazon. Yeah.
Do you have a small business and you want to give us, like, $2 and we'll sponsor... Yeah. Locally owned businesses.
Do you want to just tell us what your serpent name would be? Email us, please. We have such a boring inbox right now. Please liven it up. Tell us what your serpent name would be, or ask me to give you a serpent name, and I will happily oblige.
Yes.
Yeah.
As always, there's going to be a link to a Google document with a bunch of timestamps for different highlights of this episode. It's probably useless to you now, but...
Yeah, that's not going to help now, but,
If you want to go see what else we linked to, if we mentioned anything, shouted out anyone. And then... Who made our thing? Sawsquarenoise Towel Defense...
Ending. Towel Defense ending. So
our outro music.
Thanks to that dude, that friend, for putting their stuff on Free Music Archive, which is where we get that intro music.
Yes.
So yeah.
And then I will say, I won't say exactly what, but if you know, you know, next week we're going to Nilbog, boys.
So, I guess that's all for now, so shall we try to do our proper outro this time?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Bye, nerd. Who knows?
Who knows?